to have the energy feel a little bit over the top because just having voice without being able to see us, it shrinks things down. So just be a little more animated. It might feel a little over the top. It should. It'll come out really well on the other end. You'll hear me doing that. That's why people have the radio voice because
Well, that's what
radio
people tell
carries.
me. I have a radio. It's
You
a
do, but it's
Yeah.
more that sometimes people are sort of chill,
yeah.
and when you're chill, it comes out sleepy on the other.
Oh, okay.
The other thing is radio theater, so any emotion, if it doesn't come through the voice with a smile or this is tough, then it stays here in the booth. So to make it more dynamic, think about vocalizing emotion. As far as timing, this means wrap it up. So if you ever see me do that, 10 or 15, you don't have to come to a screeching halt.
Right,
10
sure.
or 15 seconds, land the plane. I have to go to the next question, or we have a break, or whatever. If you ever hear music, or that's my 30-second warning track, you got to finish up and get it back to me. And then otherwise, during the monologue or anytime, and it's about 4 minutes, so I'll give you 3, 2, 1, and this means 30 seconds to give you the chance to put
Yeah, I'm trying.
to put a final statement. Because if I just tell you to wrap up and you haven't really thought through your close, so as we're going, I'll give you those time cues and you can self-edit and decide where you go. If you come up short, I'll ask a follow-up question. But try to take the space, but don't worry. If you decide I'm done, I'll catch you and we'll take it through the rest of the segment. But overall,
So for the monologue, you're going to come in with why you need Christ. You're going to
I'll
highlight
intro.
that.
Yes, that's why it's a 5.5-minute segment. You have about 4 minutes of it because I do about a minute at the front and 30
You're
seconds.
going to do as much as you want. So.
Well, but this is your
Yeah,
space.
no, I know.
This is your uninterrupted space. So that's it. So, and there's no headphones in there for me. Okay, we're rolling. Camera roll. Please roll the camera. We got 1 minute. Okay, Faith and Family Day.
Same deal with turn on mic 4.
At the end, at the beginning of segment 5.
Yeah, but also if you want to turn off the American Minute, that's good too.
So we're not talking.
And then if you want to talk
We need it for the American Minute, don't we?
yeah,
I've been
so if
totally spacing on that.
it's obviously not the most important thing. Most people are like, oh, they're just on break anyway.
Right.
So that's more important. But I punch that up, and then if you guys are talking, also turn off your mics. Just gotta remember to turn it back on. Otherwise, I'll be monitoring it this time.
Okay. Okay, here we go. Welcome to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. You're listening to AM 1460 and FM 101.1. The Answer, it's Wednesday, so that is Faith and Family Day here on the Peak. We do business and culture on Mondays, politics, government Tuesdays, Thursdays, media and education. But today, Wednesdays, we pick these days for reasons. Wednesdays, is traditionally like church night. Doesn't happen as much as it used to, but that's a normal thing for Wednesdays. Why do we do that on a news program? Well, if you are trying to cover a community, like really cover a community, not just its business, not just its politics, but really cover a community, meaning the people in a community, the citizens of the community, really understand the community. How do you skip faith and family? I mean, that's at the core, and I'm not talking about any specific faith. I'm talking about the way, the ideologies, the worldview that you run yourself, you run your family with. That underpins everything. And yet, how often is it in the news and not thrown to like some Sunday feature in the back We don't believe in that. We believe if it's something that undergirds, or is a large part of a community, just like education. Why do we do education so often? Well, it's core. And it's not just children's education. Adults are being educated all the time. I hope you're a lifelong learner. That's why you listen to talk radio. So this is our attempt at what the media should look like and will look like in the future, because what we've been getting, who likes it? Like, I can't see you, but, raise your hands. Do you like the current situation with the media, especially regarding news? Okay, if you say yes, you're hugely in the minority on any side of the political or social spectrum. Why? Well, because at some point along the way, and it's happened throughout history, but some point along the way in America, the media forgot about what it was supposed to do. It sold out to governmental and corporate interests and forgot that it's supposed to serve the public. In fact, it's a sacred right to serve the public. We're supposed to look to the media for information, good information, factual information, put in proper context so it can be understood, it can be processed, and you can make your own decisions. How's that? Is that refreshing? That I don't want to make your decisions for you? I don't want to make my decisions for me. Why would I want to make yours? So I just want good media, and all I can do is try to do it myself here in the Pikes Peak region. So that's what the Peak is about. We run on a citizen journalist model and an internship model. So we have people in here all the time that are learning, that are trying. But I got to tell you, I think more committed to the cause than those who get a paycheck for it necessarily, because obviously they're volunteering to do it. But the question is, are they doing it professionally? That's where our nonprofit organization, the Peak News Educational Foundation, steps in and provides this education. So we've trained up citizen journalists who are now running around the city, and we'll soon have another class to train more. So if you'd like to be involved in that, go to our website, thepeak.news, citizen journalism page, sign up for that. As an intern, or you have young people in your life, I'm going to be teaching, along with other professionals in the region, a broadcast journalism course in the D11 school system starting in August. And we want to get your youth in there to teach them about journalistic ethics, good storytelling, train them up professionally, and plug them into an internship here at the Peak and other places. So guess what? They'll be employable right out of high school. They'll know stuff that people with a journalism degree for 4 years and a lot of debt and a lot of indoctrination will never know, because we work in this environment every day. So that's my pitch for the Peak for now. Go to thepeak.news for more info. And now here on Faith and Family Day, what are we doing today? Well, we're talking about Youth for Christ and the local ministry, the Southern Colorado regional office, I guess, or ministry section of Youth for Christ. And we have on the program as our guest and co-host for the hour, Andy LaValle, Executive Director of Youth for Christ in Southern Colorado. And if you don't know what Youth for Christ is, it's a juvenile justice ministry that reaches high-risk, detained, and incarcerated youth. And this chapter is Colorado Springs, Pueblo, and Canyon City. Andy LaValle, Executive Director of Youth for Christ, welcome to the Peak News.
Well, thank you so much. It's a privilege to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. And we love doing Faith and Family Day for this very reason of talking about things like this. So, of course, the whole program is going to be about Youth for Christ, including how having faith really helps with the recidivism rate and the juvenile delinquency rate and all that. It's not about religion, folks. In this case, we're a news show. I'm asking Andy for stats today, how all this works. We'll of course learn about Youth for Christ as we go, and especially how we as a community can really, really serve our youth at this time where, hey, they're lost and they're getting in a lot of trouble. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. We have Andy LaValle from Youth for Christ on, and we'll be right back. So happy you're here. Okay, our mics are back on for the live stream. So the first one is going to be about Boulder, and Andy. So the first one is going to be about Boulder, the attack, anything you want to say, and about standing up for our Jewish community, and that, they are looking for. I'm a Messianic Jew, so I really know they don't want to talk to me necessarily, but they really like when Christians, when we hear that non-Jews are actually on our side. So anything you want to say in that area regarding the Jewish community. Then we'll talk about this focus on the family being ridiculously listed as a hate group, and this whole thing with the Southern Poverty Law Center. And
the Southern Poverty.
The Southern Poverty Law Center is the one that produces this hate list.
Okay.
And people have suggested that they should be on their own list because because they seem to only single out, right wing stuff, that there's no hate on the other side. And then there's the pride thing. Whatever you want to say there. I certainly have a bunch, but but I mostly give it to the guests because I'm here every day.
Sure.
But if we just get into a banter, I'll pick up that you've said what you want to say. I'll say something. Maybe you'll take it back, and we'll work our way through the timing on it. So, okay, great. Okay, we're back on 30. Welcome back to the Peak News. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. It's Faith and Family Wednesday. We have with us as our guest and co-host for the hour, Andy LaValle, Executive Director of Youth for Christ of Southern Colorado. And this is our headlines segment. And very often when I look for faith headlines, I don't find a lot. But for better or worse, there's a bunch in the headlines. So we're going to start with the attack. We did an entire program last Wednesday on anti-Semitism, had Jordan Baldwin, who's also Jewish, on the program with me, and we were talking about it, telling stories. Jordan has researched this a lot, and he's experienced it while going out and trying to report the news, anti-Semitic slurs and attacks and things. And so we invite you to check out last week's show. Really, really proud of it, what we did. Tough topic, but it was inspired, of course, by the anti-Semitism that's going on not just around the United States, but here in Colorado with the Boulder attack of a couple weeks ago, an Egyptian national illegal in the country. The whole thing, we're having these ICE riots going on right now. These are the kind of people ICE is trying to send out of the country. And you know what? If someone's going to go and light 15 elderly Jewish people on fire, are you really want them in the country? Like, do you think they have rights? Like, what? I'm sorry. I know. What's wrong with you? Okay? What's wrong with you? Okay? It's a criminal. Okay? Like, no mercy. The guy got Molotov cocktails. Didn't need to have a gun, didn't need to have a knife. He figured it out. Hate figures it out. So, I'm angry that people are defending people like this. I'm an American. I would defend your right to practice your religion, practice your politics, do it all with never having anyone cause you harm or light you on fire or anything else. But how you support people like this, I don't know. But I want to stand up for the Jewish community. There's a really good article. Debbie Kelly, who's a friend, works for the Gazette. Faith, Fear, and Vigilance, Colorado Springs rabbis react to Boulder terror attack. Great for Debbie bringing it back here, because I've been told for years, yeah, Chaim, that happens. It's in America. Yeah, we see it happening in New York and Miami, maybe in Denver, but it's not in Colorado Springs. I've been told that by our mayor. I've been told that by pastors. Folks, this guy who lit Jewish people on fire was living off Constitution in Colorado Springs, planning it for a year, tried to buy a gun at Shields. Seems the only reason he wasn't because he's not an American citizen, but because his visa had expired. If he had bought it before the visa expired, he would have had a gun. And guess how many people, just citizens up in Boulder, probably had a gun there? Probably none, because you're not allowed to, right? It's like not socially acceptable. It's illegal in places here. First Amendment, Second Amendment shall not be infringed. Doesn't seem to mean anything. If someone had a gun there and saw that guy walking over with a Molotov cocktail, they might have put a bullet in him. And maybe these people wouldn't have suffered. But this is the problem with not understanding hatred. And so, Andy, talk about this, because you deal with youth who are really hurting, probably come out of horrible situations, have had to deal with this even from their families and stuff. Talk about just the ideology of hate and what you see in our community, how it's getting into our youth.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's just the fact that somebody, a 15-year-old, commits a crime, all of a sudden he's hated by society, honestly. We do things wrong. It's not good, but hate against anybody is not right, whether it's Jewish community or Muslim community. We all should, like you said, we have the right to express our faith, and we have a right to live and not be hated and put in a corner and shunned off. And
gay, straight, any political, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Absolutely. And just we can immediately put people in a box just because of an incident, and there's hate there. It's not just anti-Semitic, somebody who hates a group for their life. They grew up in hate, and they hate that group. We can instantly, we see something, we judge right away. Do I like that? Do I not like that? And somebody says something.
And so people say, just free Palestine and, globalize the Intifada, getting back to the main story here. They're just words, they're free speech, but we see them turning into violence and indoctrinating our youth.
Absolutely. They hear that, they migrate toward that in ways like gangs. They'll be accepted in because they're willing to
do
adopt something wrong, adopt whatever's there.
Okay, well, let's go to hate that isn't hate, and this is the Southern Poverty Law Center, which people have suggested should be on their own hate list, but they publish this list, which is actually then picked up by social media companies and say, we can't work, or we need to deplatform these groups that because they're hate. And we've had Moms for Liberty on it. We've had other people like Ben Carson has been put on it. If you know who that is, very accomplished, American black man who worked his way up from nothing, became the head of HUD in Trump's first administration. He's been there, but Focus on the Family was just placed on it, and the initial reaction from them is, what took you so long? Nicole Hunt, who's been on the program, who is specifically in their legal department. She's a lawyer, so she's made these statements, and I would look into it because we know Focus on the Family is not a hate organization, although people have gone to their sign at their bookstore, written stuff on it. What is the thing that's getting people on these lists? Well, is disagreeing with liberal talking points. So if you stand for biblical marriage, right, if you don't think that homosexuality is the best thing, if you're against abortion, which you would think, wait a minute, I'm trying to support life. I love life. I want to support babies, but we know how the whole thing's been turned around. And so again, you can believe that, but to say that people that disagree with you are automatically hate organizations. Has anybody accused Youth for Christ of being a hate organization?
No, thank God.
Okay. But what do you think about this? Just this labeling, which gets people deplatformed because liberal corporations use this list to say, we can't work with you. And then the Southern Poverty Law Center, nobody seems to take them to task.
I don't understand how anybody can be against anybody who's trying to keep a family together. First of all, focus on the family. And that's part of our whole demise is the family falls apart. And when you have an organization, whether it's Christian or whatever it is, that is trying to do things to keep families together, to help families in need, how can that be hate? Why would you label that as hate? I just don't.
But this I know, guys, Antifa, hate organization. Black Lives Matter in certain incarnations, if you go, you hear them spewing hatred against groups. Certainly Hamas, the Palestinian Authority, Hezbollah, all these groups that college students seem to be really love to do. People that are actually spewing hate, not that disagree with you. I can totally have a conversation with people that think that the situation in I'm a dual Israeli citizen, American. I don't like the way Israel conducts things. There are things I object to, but that doesn't make someone or not a hate organization because you disagree with them. People that are actually calling for hate, especially violence, I believe does. And so I'm going to now transition, wow, that's with no pun intended, into Pikes Peak Pride. It's June, which is the month of Pride. And this event, funded by tax money, is happening at the Pioneer Museum this weekend, the 14th and 15th on Father's Day too. And I went down there last year, and it's very interesting. They call it family friendly. It's not so much. I would not bring young children, although people drop their young children off in the Drag Queen Story Hour booth. And there are people walking around in undressed. There's profanity. There's inappropriate stuff. And I'm told Denver is 10 times worse. It's tamer here. But I'm going to say this to you. Go. It's on Saturday. It's on Sunday. Go to pikespeakpride.org. I'm planning on going down on Sunday. I said to my family, don't take this the wrong way. Don't read into this. But on Father's Day, I'd like to go down to Pikes Peak Pride. I'm not coming out of the closet or anything like that. It's in our city. It's at the Pioneer Museum. Go down, interact with the people, see what's down there, see what's down there, see what's not down there. Be part of it. We should not, as a community, stay away from these things. And we also need to decide, is it going to be, is it something that we should support as a community, especially with tax dollars? And we'll be doing a whole show on what we find because Jordan Baldwin, our other citizen journalist, will be down there. Go down to Pikes Peak Pride Pioneer Museum this weekend. Andy, I'm not having you comment on this.
That's all right.
We'll be right back with the peak. Okay, good. You getting in flow?
What's
We're
that?
good now? We're in flow? It's more comfortable? Okay. Okay.
I just love listening to you. It's like, I'm almost like, wow, you can pull something out of me that I didn't even know was there.
Okay. So, Zach, I need to make sure, not this segment, so I don't have to punch this again until segment 5. So after that, once the radio music goes down, at any point I should punch it so it's there for Jim or I'll forget. So try to remember.
You decide to not listen to Jim, right? You decide to talk.
I got to turn those on. So are we on 4 or 5 or 3 and 4? Did you figure it out? Or should I just punch all?
It just says guests on the list. So
Right.
if you do all 3, that's fine.
Well, if we could figure out where they go, but okay.
Well, yeah, we can test it.
Well, how about tap one of them?
Turn on one and see, look at it.
No. Okay, 4? Yes. 5. Yes. So it's 4 and 5. Okay, thank you. Okay, so
Yeah, Jim ran is about Father's Day.
Oh,
He
great.
said Father's Day is coming up,
okay.
so I figured it'd actually be better to do it today.
Yeah, for Family Day. Okay, excellent. This is segment 3. This is your monologue. You have your bullet points sort of ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why kids need Christ? What's going on?
Yeah, and again, basically what you were going to talk about, but just in a different
right.
envelope. And stay close to the mic. Energy up. I'll give you 3, 2, 1, and 30 seconds, and just pace yourself. You'll after you get the second cue, you'll realize, okay, this is how much I can fit in a minute, and then you'll start adjusting to make sure you hit all your points by the end. Okay. I do this 4 days a week.
Well, I know.
We've done
I was
over
like-
250. The formula works. Just trust the system. Trust the system.
And so if I stop a little bit, you'll just Can you
If
do
you if you
give me a little?
clearly show me that you're done, because I don't want to jump in if you're
Right.
just having a poignant pause, but if you clearly do that final chapter kind of thing, I'll jump in and ask a follow-up question. Yeah. But don't do that in like the first 3 minutes. Like
Right.
at least fill three
I'll
of the four. I've had people forget that it was the monologue and like turn back to me after a minute for a question. I'm like, okay. How? But that's not what this is. This is like your free reign. Okay, we're back in under a minute. Okay. Last commercial. Welcome back to the Peak News on The Answer, AM 1460 and FM 101.1. No, we don't lie to you here. Again, too much competition in that area in the media. We couldn't even survive. So we figured, say what's true, put it in context. When we give an opinion, make sure you know where the opinion's coming from, what our background is. You know, when I say something like, what's wrong with you? Okay, that's me. That's Chaim Goldman speaking. That's not really newsy. But you know what? Sometimes we got to speak out about stuff. We got to be straight with stuff. And also, you know what? Listen to other people and don't just dismiss them, but test everything, right? If it's true, it'll stand. No problem. So we have here on Faith and Family Wednesday, Andy Lavalley, Executive Director of Youth for Christ, that helps youth in trouble. It's a juvenile justice ministry. And in this segment, as we turn the mic over to Andy, is going to talk about why our local youth really need Christ. Andy Lavalley.
Well, thank you. Yeah, everybody can look in the news and they hear about the violence from the youth killing youth and drugs everywhere. What we're not hearing is behind the scenes where youth just are really struggling with depression. They're struggling with suicidal tendencies. There's just, since especially COVID, I had a mother I talked to today, as a matter of fact, that reaching out for her 15-year-old son who's really struggling with depression. He's been suicidal. He's been in therapy. He's had a mentor, but they couldn't afford to keep a mentor. They said that, at $800 a month, they just couldn't have a mentor, and it worked for him. It seemed to be he connected with somebody. He's the only child left in the family. The other siblings have grown and left, so he's by himself, which is what society has become. We've become very isolated, and youth that don't have parents around. A lot of 15-year-olds are out there trying to take care of a 12-year-old, a 5-year-old. Their grandmother is working, and they're having to be a parent before they're 15, and they realize grandma's struggling. She's working 2 jobs, and so these kids start thinking, how do I get money? How do I help grandma? How do I help my family survive? And the gangs come in, and they snatch them up, and they put them on the street to sell drugs. They'll even give them a weapon, and the next thing you know, they're up on serious charges for something. They're simply trying to survive. They're trying to keep their family together. They don't have it. And so we're breaking down as a society at the family level. There's so many youth that are just wandering around by themselves. They have nothing. They have no hope. And when they have nobody and no hope, they fall into these suicidal tendencies. They start taking drugs to get away from their problems at home, to get away from the things at school that are going on. They don't fit in, especially the poor segment of society. Kids are wearing $200 sneakers, and a kid goes to school and he doesn't have them. He's shunned out. And so they tend to leave school. A majority of the kids that we see around barely get through middle school. It's a crisis. And so those are the things that we see in society, the families falling apart. These kids need hope. They need to know that they're cared for. They just can't be shunned away, put in a box for a couple of years, and then come out and think everything's going to be all right. It just doesn't work.
So where do you see with these youth that coming to faith in Christ really helps them out of this situation?
They have a hope. They realize they have a purpose. They don't have to continue doing the things they've been doing. They can get involved in society. They can get involved with the Christian society. It's not just about Christ. It's about the body of Christ coming together and walking alongside these youth to get them out of the tracks that they're on. Most of these kids are scheduled for death or prison without hope, without somebody telling them that they're more than what they have been charged with as a criminal.
This is happening here in Colorado Springs, folks. It's not maybe as big a problem as it is in LA or New York, where they've have gangs for, 300 years there. We can solve these problems here, but we have to do it together. Thank you, Andy, for that commentary. We'll be right back talking about Youth for Christ. Cool. Good. Okay, we're on page 4. So you can review the segment 4 says it at the top.
Oh yeah, segment 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can see those 4 questions, and you'll have about 2 minutes or so per answer, but we keep it flexible. We just make sure we got a couple minutes at the end to specifically promote, your programs, how people can get involved. So, and the golf tournament. Is it completely private funded, the organization?
Yep. It's all outside funding. We have some churches that support us, as a church, as a ministry.
Right.
But yeah, we raise our own funding. Some Youth for Christ has government funding to mentor.
Oh, okay.
But strings come with that.
Right.
And I'm not willing to take strings from the government to tell me how to.
And where did it start?
Youth for Christ?
No, the whole organization.
75 years ago, Billy Graham was actually the first hired staff.
See, that's the kind of stuff that helps me ask a good question. And okay, and then here, how long's it been here?
Since 1997.
Okay, and how long have you been?
About 25 years.
Okay, as the executive director?
No, I came on staff in 2016 as the ministry director and became executive director January of 19.
From 19. Okay.
Yeah, so 6 years.
6 years.
But I've been with the organization. I've been I was the
years.
chairman of the board.
So
I've done everything.
This
has
been your life.
This has been my life. Well, I was
Yeah.
a contractor at NORAD. I was in the Air Force, retired.
Okay.
So.
Okay, this is good. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to the Peak News on AM 1460 and FM 101.1 The Answer. I'm Chaim Goldman, the Watchman. So proud to serve this community from behind this microphone. And we want to invite you to get behind a microphone too, or maybe get behind the board if you're not that kind of person. We have Zach running the board in there, one of our main interns here. And you get that experience here. And we have a whole educational foundation, Peak News Educational Foundation, to train up a new generation of integrous, ethical journalists in order to serve our community. So go on the peak.news, check us out, especially if you have youth. We have for juniors and seniors coming up this year. We have a broadcast journalism course that's going to be taught in D11 school system. You don't have to be in D11. You can even be a homeschooler and take part in it. Go to our website, thepeak.news, the D11 CTE link, and join us. I'm very, very excited to be working with youth to bring the media back in a great way in our region. Shout out to one of our wonderful Peak sponsors, as we are supported by local business. One of our gold sponsors, Pickle Prosthodontics. They do work like dental implants and eye teeth, crowns, dentures, full mouth reconstruction. Go to pickledental.com. Todd Pickle, he's a good friend of the show. And thank you to the Pickles for supporting us and bringing this to the community. Couldn't do it without you. Well, it's Faith and Family Wednesday, and we have Andy LaValle, Executive Director of Youth for Christ of Southern Colorado. Youth for Christ is a juvenile justice ministry that reaches high-risk, detained, and incarcerated youth. This chapter covers Colorado Springs, Pueblo, and Canyon City. Their mission is to raise up lifelong followers of Jesus who lead by their godliness and lifestyle, devotion to the Word of God and prayer, passion for sharing the love of Christ, and commitment to social involvement. Obviously, I just read their mission statement. But now we're going to get more personal with the executive director himself. Andy LaValle, you've been with Youth for Christ for like 25 years. This organization was started by Billy Graham about 75 years ago. Tell us, how did you come to be involved with the organization and end up as the executive director?
Well, it was a journey I did never expect to take, that's for sure. A friend of mine asked me if I would do sound for his Christian band, and I said, okay, I'll do that. Were you playing? And he was actually going into the detention facilities and the treatment facilities where these kids were
Here
in Colorado Springs
Okay.
and Pueblo and Canyon City. He was each month he'd go into a different one. So we'd go into these facilities where there'd be up to 100 kids in a gymnasium, and we're playing Christian rock and roll for these kids. And so I was doing that for several years, but as I did it, I started asking more questions about the kids and where they came from. And it really tore my heart to see back 10 or 11-year-old kids in jail or in a treatment facility. And I was like, wow, this is horrible. And back, like I said, 100 kids in a facility, boys and girls. And so after about 4 years, the band kind of stopped, and I went to Youth for Christ and said, how can I work with these kids directly? So I became a volunteer, started going into treatment facilities, working with kids. And then over time, I've just done about everything. They asked me on the board. I was the board of directors. In 2016, I came on as the ministry director to work ministry issues, and I became the executive director in 2019. So it's been a big part of my life for the last 25 years, and I have really been blessed by it.
So why do you have a heart for it? I mean, some people in this situation would say, well, I was a troubled kid, or I was incarcerated, or things like that. What gives you such a personal heart to have basically spent your adult life professionally and ministerially in this specific ministry?
Honestly, it's from the Lord. The things that are on God's heart, he puts on our heart in different people in different situations. This is just what the Lord, like I said, he kind of snuck me in the back door. You're going to do music. If he'd have come out and said, Andy, you're going to go in and sit down across from a 15-year-old up for murder, I'd have been, what? Are you crazy? Mm-hmm. I can't do that. But he slowly let me see these kids as kids and how the background of these kids was so horrible. And it just broke my heart. I said, there's got to be hope for these kids. There's got to be a way to reach these kids. There's got to be something that they can do other than where they are now. And it just went right to my heart. God just bit it, and it's where it is.
Thank you for doing this. Doing news in this region, and things don't get covered. And admitting that you have a problem is the only way to start working at it. You see the fallout of it, but if we don't admit these problems, then the resources don't go there, the attention doesn't go there. So, I'm saying this somewhat tongue-in-cheek. We don't have a drug problem here. We don't have sex trafficking. We don't have gangs. We don't have any of that. So how are kids, I'm saying this sarcastically,
yes.
How in the world this is what happens in other cities, Andy,
yes, absolutely.
but practically bringing it into the Southern Colorado, what are the day-to-day things so that adults can face up to the fact that our children are dealing with this? What's getting our youth into trouble here
Yeah.
in our region?
First of all, El Paso County, for example, has the largest number of adolescents in Colorado. And we got a large military population, obviously. Dads are gone, deployed.
Right.
Kids-
These aren't absentee dads. These are
No,
responsible men who are serving the country, but they're not there.
They're not there,
Right.
and their kids are out doing things. And then we have a real large base of poor, the those that don't have much, and just we see Colorado Springs as the Christian Mecca. I remember when I first moved here in '98. It's it's got all these
That's what
Christian
people think, yeah.
Christian organizations. But here again, like focus on the family. Within our community, the families are broken terribly. These kids are going through, the drug issues are there. I mean, I've dealt with some of the biggest drug dealers in the city. It's very real. And gangs, very real. One of the problems is you don't see these big gangs like LA and those things. And it makes it even worse because kids, 3 kids get together, they're a gang. And it's just horrible. They have, like I said, they have no hope. They drop out of school, middle school. And so once they get out of school, they're just on the streets. You see the headlines when something really bad happens, when a teenager kills a teenager, or but they're overdosing all the time. There's a lot of drugs out there that they don't stay here. They get moved all over.
Let me ask from someone who has to deal with it. We got this thing now. There's rec marijuana being sold in Colorado Springs. We're told, they're going to keep youth out of it. It's not going to change anything. Let's be real. Have you seen, even in the short couple of months, are children able to get it more? Do we see an impact yet?
I haven't noticed it, honestly, from that standpoint. But
so maybe they are managing it well. I'm not putting it past them to do that.
I truly believe it's an entrance into more dangerous things. We just don't see the dangerous things behind it. If you're letting kids have recreational marijuana, what's the next step? We don't see that. We don't think about the next steps, but they're very much there.
So you brought it up. I'm going to follow it. We have all these ministries here. You would think that we'd be paying attention to our own city, but so many of the ministries are looking to India or whatever they're doing, Washington, D.C., whatever. And meanwhile, constitutional abortion passes, all these things go on while the very place that the employees live turns into what we have now. So, if Christ is the answer, then I'm guessing you're saying the church needs to step up more for solving these issues. Yes,
absolutely. It's
a good guess on my part.
I have they call us not really the church. We're a parachurch. So yes, the church is like trying to break into Fort Knox. They stay within their walls, honestly, and it's organizations like us that have to get out there on the street.
So you do partner with some churches, but overall, it's frustrating.
It is very frustrating.
Okay, see, we have to air our dirty laundry,
yeah,
folks. The church needs to stop being a show and people in the seats. And I'm not saying it's all that. It's not, but getting out. And working with these parachurch ministries or just doing it. And hey, great segue. Mission Colorado is happening next week. My children are going to be part of it here in Colorado Springs. You can get Christian youth out. Check out at your church if they're not doing it. Ours is doing it through the road where we go and youth group and sponsor the show. Get involved with Mission Colorado. They're going to be going out, not to Guatemala or somewhere. They're going to be going out actually here. And witnessing here, and that's harder to do. And I love Mission Colorado, and a few of my children will be in that. So tell us specifically about Youth for Christ, the local one. What are your programs? How can people come alongside you, get involved?
So we actually go into the facilities. We actually, it's amazing that the facilities, we have a long-term facility here, detention facility here, and a detention facility in Pueblo. Once a week, last night, for example, on Tuesday nights, our group of volunteers go into the facility, go into the pods where there's 8 to 10 kids, and we do what we're trying to build authentic Christ-sharing relationships. These kids need to know that we care before they care about what we're talking about. So we go in there and we just talk with kids. We get to know who they are. We build these relationships. We're allowed to bring Bibles in. We bring Bible study material. We can, we have Christian groups that go in.
And how? Yeah, and is there a level of training before they go in, or just how do people get involved? We have about 30 seconds.
People get in. They come on board. They just come onto our website, fill out an application. We do a background. They have to do mandatory report training. But honestly, they'll ask me, Andy, what do we have? I said, you have to love these kids. Follow Christ, and it's amazing. It's amazing.
And you're all privately supported.
Yes, we're just individual supporters, church supporters. Thank you for the road.
Yeah.
They support us. And so, yes, we're all private donations.
Okay. The website is SOCO, YFC, SOCO for Southern Colorado, YFC for youthforchrist.org. Andy LaValle, this is interesting. Thanks for doing what you're doing. Please get involved. Get your church involved. Get out. We got to get to our youth. We got to get to them, and younger and younger and younger. When we come back, I don't know, Andy, we got to talk about what we're talking about in the next segment. We'll be doing that at the break. Stick around. We'll be back with the peak. Okay. What do you want to talk about in this segment? We have about 4 minutes or so of content to do it. We didn't mention the golf tournament.
Golf tournament's coming up.
Sorry about that.
No, that's fine. Just different, you mentioned we're in Canyon City, Pueblo. I don't know. I think that we push men.
Men. Okay.
Yeah, we have a lot of women. We need men.
Okay.
I'm going to be at the Rhodes breakfast Saturday.
Okay.
Tuesday morning.
Next
Tuesday morning.
Next Tuesday?
Yep, I'll be there.
Okay.
But I think we need to really push men. We in society have dropped the ball.
Okay.
95% of the kids don't have fathers.
Okay.
Figure.
And of those who you deal with, what percentage are male?
Probably 95%.
95%.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's very few
So
girls.
we need dads.
Yeah, we need dads. We need male model mentors.
Okay.
I
Great.
mean,
Perfect.
it's amazing. We
Great.
got.
And then we'll say, hey guys, we have a golf tip for those of you
Yeah,
guys out there.
you want to help support us? Come out and play golf.
Play golf. Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah.
Good segue into that. And same website, same place
Yep,
to go.
all
Okay.
the same. Yep,
Okay.
everything's right there.
Okay, cool. So on this one, I don't get a music warning track. I have to throw to a pre-record.
Oh, okay.
So when we still got a minute and a half. So when I do the wrap up, we got to wrap it up.
Okay,
Time.
yeah.
So there won't be any warning music. So just let you know on this one. Let me find out about the
It does go by quicker than I thought.
yeah, it does. Radio, especially the way we do. Great, and then we're throwing to. You ever meet Jim Miller? You should meet Jim Miller if you haven't. He ran for mayor, ran for city council.
I haven't.
He goes by. He's just a guy. He's just the street savvy guy here. And do you remember Andy Rooney on 60 Minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's our Andy Rooney.
Oh, wow.
He's our crotchety, sarcastic guy. But he's going to do a segment. He's going to rant. We just let him rant. And he's doing it on Father's Day, so that's a good segue for the
We need fathers.
segment that we that I'm a continuity person.
Yeah, I get it. It's cool.
The show has all these different pieces, but I like it to feel like it's one story arc. So
Yeah, and
this
the
is
thing is,
I love that you chose this.
we only have 2 staff, so that's a big thing. Is that this me and my office manager?
Really?
We manage over 50
okay.
volunteers,
Okay, well that's
all these facilities.
okay.
So we're a low budget, get a lot done.
Welcome back to the Peak News on Faith and Family Wednesday. We're finishing up with this segment with Andy LaValle, Executive Director of Youth for Christ. And then Jim Miller, just a guy, is doing a rant on Father's Day. So during the break, because we realized we hadn't determined, sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, what we're talking about at the end of the show. And I said, Andy, what did we miss here? And he said, we need men to be involved. With Father's Day coming up, so appropriate that 95% of the, and we would know that, 95% of the juveniles that they're dealing with are male, approximately, and yet most of the people who volunteer are female. And so, Andy, tell us about the real importance of having men being mentors, surrogate dads, whatever you want to call it, getting involved. Because he also just told me this whole Youth for Christ here that's covering this whole region, two are both full time.
Yes.
2 full-time employees. That's it for everything that they're doing. So they need volunteers. Andy, we get out the men.
Yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
we got a golf tournament to talk about too, man.
Yeah, absolutely. We have these guys need to look up to men. They need men in their lives. And the thing of it is, we do aftercare also. So if a youth wants to have a one-on-one coach, a mentor, we can set them up with somebody while they're inside. They can continue to work with them. And then when they leave, that mentor goes with them. They work with them in the home, wherever they go. Obviously, when we have young men, I don't match them up with women. I need men that can go in and get that one-on-one and work with a youth when he gets out in the community, in his home, or at a local treatment facility. And so that's huge. I just had the mother that just called has a 15-year-old son. I don't have any men to do mentoring at this time. And so it's definitely a huge need.
Okay. I'm just going to say this. We have I don't know, anywhere from 400 to 600 churches in this town. What we also have is the best of the best of the best military trained men who retire full pensions in their 40s. Okay. Now, if you're still raising children like I am, picking up a couple extra kids, that's the thing. But you older guys, where the kids are out of the house or close to grandpas, okay, this is an area where men really know how to be men, and yet we don't have enough men to go and mentor these youth. So tell us more about the experience. If guys reach out to you, what are they going to go through? What's expected of them? So because guys want to know what's the deal.
Absolutely. They go through background checks and local training and facility training, facility backgrounds. But it's all you're committing to is 1 hour a week to go in a facility, plus your travel time. Once it's either Tuesdays or Thursdays here in the Springs, and Sundays it's in Pueblo. We go in on Sunday. You commit to that. If you get together with a youth and want to be a one-on-one, once they leave the facility or you become their mentor, you can schedule your own time.
Mm-hmm.
The facility lets you schedule. You meet with them one-on-one like a visit. And when they go out, you set your own time. But we're asking for 1 hour a week. And we'd like to have you on there for a minimum of a year.
Yeah, they must. Those young men must light up when that man shows up week after week after week, especially in a way, if they don't have a father.
That's exactly it. It takes a long time to build that relationship.
Yeah,
Relationships
sure,
are hard.
Yeah.
But that's why you have to be committed to do that. And once you build the trust of the youth, it goes.
Okay.
I've been with kids for 7 years.
Okay, man, I want to challenge you. If you have 2 hours a week, so let's say travel time, let's say 3 hours a week for going through intake. If you can do that, please reach out. SOCO YFC, SOCO YFC for Southern Colorado Youth for Christ.org and get involved. We have 30 seconds left. Tell us about the golf tournament.
The 18th of August at the Springs Country Club.
This is a big fundraiser.
It's our only fundraiser that we have.
Okay.
So go on the website. You can put a team in.
So
call
is it
me.
four-man teams?
4-man teams. If you just have one, we can put you in with another group. And we also need sponsors. For those Christian businesses out there that just get a hold of us, we have all types of sponsorships that we can use.
Okay. Andy LaValle, Executive Director of Youth for Christ. Thanks so much. Again, the website, socoyfc.org. Andy, thank you so much for what you do.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And now, as Father's Day is coming up, and Jim Miller is a lot of things, including a father, he's ranting on Father's Day, just a guy.
Parachurch.
Well, thanks for joining us for another episode of The Peak. We have a youth issue here. I believe that it can be solved, but here's the problem. We're so darn busy. But those of you, okay, if you like golf, yeah, get your golfing in. You know, do your recreation. I'm not putting it past you. You worked hard. But if you're in a situation monetarily and time-wise where you don't still have children at home, you're not working full-time like a lot of people, and you have the life experience and more than anything else, the love, please get involved with Youth for Christ. We're dealing with children who are already in the system, folks. They're already there. So we got to get them out. We got to help them. And we got to tell them how to not spend the rest of their life in this. And it's easy when they're 15 and 16 and 17. It's not so hard when they get a little bit older than that. So let's get involved where Youth for Christ is. And again, that is SOCOY, SOCOYFC.org. We here on The Peak really, really believe in our community. And so I'm going to encourage you to go down to Pikes Peak Pride this Saturday or Sunday. It's down at the Pioneers Museum. I know it's weird. I know we want to stay away from it. I know we don't want to deal with it. Go down, deal with it. Age appropriate. Watch out for the children. I would say have them be like, over 10 years old. Talk to them about it. But is this good for our society? What should we be doing about it? I'm going to be down there with my family on Sunday for a time. We have a whole bunch of citizen journalists. And on Monday, we're doing a whole report on it, as we like to do, to see what's new. Did anything shift with the new administration? Or as many businesses supporting it as before? But tomorrow, Education and Media Day, we have Donna Shell and Dan May of the 12 Stones Classical School, and we'll be talking about alternative education for our children. There's lots of different ways to educate your children. Maybe you don't want them in the public schools, but you don't want to homeschool them either. Well, this type of school might be an option for you. Stay tuned next for the Larry Elder Show, coming up next here on The Answer, and check out our 250-plus podcasts at thepeak.news. We're saying the quiet stuff out loud for such a time as this. Shalom, y'all.